when you consider that I started out as a grave digger, you know, and born in a council house in North London. Council house is like, what would you say, a tenement? It's tremendous. I mean, I've seen both sides of the fence. I've seen what it's like to live in absolute luxury and have more money than you can spend, and also I've been the other side of the fence where we used to have to save our bath water to put out in the garden to keep the roses growing. When I first came into the business, you know, when I was 19, I thought, if this lasts for a year, I'll be really happy. I'll be able to buy myself a little cheap sports car, pull all the girls, and then everybody would have forgotten about me. It us that came along in the late 60s and the early 70s, it was a relatively new form of art, you see. Nowadays, you know, every kid on the street's getting into a band, and MTV and VH1, it's not quite so unusual to be in a band or be a rock and roll singer. We were the originals, and we did everything first, and it's very hard to come up with anything new in rock and roll because it's such a small sphere that it goes round in. It's more or less been the same chords since it first started, so we were lucky, we were the first ones. I think you've got to look interesting, not necessarily great looking. In fact, that can go against you, I think. I think you've got to have an interesting face like I have, and Mick has, and Elton has. And with me, it was the voice, you know, the nose and the haircut. And it's a whole package. It's being able to perform and entertain.
Baby, I'll try to love again, but I know the first cut is the deepest. Baby, I know the first cut is the deepest. When it comes to
We all came through in the early 70s, you know, and the Stones were before that, but during the early 70s, we were all pretty competitive, but on a very healthy level. Mick and Bowie, and a guy called T-Rex, Mark Bolan. The only bad nights I have, you know, and singers are notorious for being worried about their voices, and 9 times out of 10 it's all up in your mind, you know, is if I'm losing my voice and I've got to go out and sing to 18, 20,000 people. I know that my voice is not 100%. Of course, the audience don't know. You know, as Pavarotti once said, a singer is a prisoner of his own voice, because 24 hours a day you've got to look after it. You can't have late nights, you can't drink so much, and I've never smoked, so I've never had that problem. You're a prisoner of your voice. It's your instrument. The secret to any singer, you got to keep your vocal cords moisturized. I've always been a Sinatra fan. It took me a long time to own up to it, you know, because it wasn't that popular to be a Frank Sinatra fan in the 80s and the 70s, you know, but he was one of the greatest phrases of a word that ever lived.
The way I do today, 'cause you make me feel so young. You make me feel so young. You make me feel so spring has sprung.
end of the day, we should give thanks and pray to the one. Have I told you lately that I love you? Have I told you there's no one else above you?
Jeff was brilliant, and that was a great band to be in. I mean, it was a Chicago blues band, all full of little white pretty boys. This is 1967, 68. I hid behind the speakers at the Fillmore East. I was so frightened to come out because I was trying to sound like a Negro singer. If I see black people in the audience before us, I'm going to freeze. I sung a few lines, you know, and then came out because the audience just loved us. But that was a great band, a great blues band, and Jeff's... We are the enemies, Jeff and I. We don't really get on well. He was some guitar player. I think he lacks a singer. If he had a singer like me, you know, he could probably make great albums again. I was very shy as a kid, and I still basically am, believe it or not, a shy guy. I don't think people in show business are confident people. I think under all of it, they all think, Jesus, I'm lucky. Is anybody going to take this away from me? I came from a family of singers. None of them were professional, but they all thought they could sing, because I remember when we used to have parties, all the relatives had come over and everyone was in a big sing-song and, you know, getting drunk and falling down. Only, you know, Christmases and birthdays. So I was surrounded by music, you know, but I was the one that was very lucky. I got turned down by one of the big record companies in the 60s because they thought my voice was too rough. I remember I sang a Sam Cooke song called Shake. And they said, well, we'd like you, but your voice is too rough. And there was a few other guys that came in the studio after me, and they were all like really, really pretty boys, but they couldn't sing.
My love for you is immeasurable. My respect for you immense. You're ageless and timeless, laced and fine as your beauty and elegance. Your rhapsody, a cloud. If I listen long enough to you, I'd find a way to believe that it's all true. Knowing that you lie straight-faced while I cry, still I look to find a reason. You tell me so. If you really need me, just reach out and touch me. Come on, sugar, tell me so.
There's nothing like it in the world than just getting up in front of an audience and just sending them all home happy. That's the magic, that is the drug. It's wonderful, I've been very blessed and I wouldn't change it for the world.